My name is Sarah. I am 35 years old. And exactly 1 month after I buried my husband, my cousin stood up at a baby shower and tried to walk away with half of everything I had built. The balloons were still tied to the chairs. She had barely finished her cake. Her name was Nicole. She clinked her spoon against her glass, looked around the room with a slow smile, and announced that her newborn daughter was James's. Then she said she would be taking half the house James and I had saved for, fought for, and paid off with our own hands. She even pulled out a folded document and called it his last wishes. Every pair of eyes in that living room turned to me at the exact same moment. I put my cup down on the table. I said, "I see." And I did not say another word, because the calm woman they were all staring at was not the one who had been caught off guard. James had known something was coming long before I did. I am a school administrator. 13 years. I know how to sit at a table where the other side thinks they have already won. And I know how to wait 6 weeks before that baby shower. I stood at the entrance of a small funeral hall and greeted every single person who walked through the door, because that is who I am. I organize. I hold things together. I keep moving, so I do not have to feel the weight of everything pressing down on me. James was 44, a brain aneurysm, on a Wednesday evening, between dinner and a television show. He never finished watching. No warning, no chance to prepare, just my phone buzzing on the kitchen counter while I was washing dishes, and my neighbor's voice saying my name in a way I had never heard before. We bought our house on Maple Court as a wreck. Leaking roof, rotting porch, a basement that flooded every spring. Everyone said we were making a mistake. We did not listen. We spent 7 years turning that house into something real, working weekends and evenings until the mortgage was gone and the house was worth close to $850,000. That number meant nothing to me. What it meant was James on a ladder on a Saturday morning, arguing with me about paint colors and laughing at his own mistakes. After the service, his brother hugged me and did not let go for a long time. Nicole was somewhere near the back. She left before the food was set out. And tucked inside my coat pocket was a sealed white envelope that James's attorney had quietly placed in my hand during the reception. A man named Edward Carr, whose name I had never heard before that day. I did not open the envelope that night. I was not ready to see his handwriting. For 4 days after the funeral, I went back to work. People thought it was strange. I thought it was the only thing keeping me from coming apart. My office does not stop for grief. And in that season, I needed something that did not stop. At home, the house sat too still and too full of him at the same time. His coffee mug on the counter, his jacket on the hook by the door. James was the kind of man who documented everything. He filed papers I would have thrown away. He kept records I never would have thought to keep. "You will be glad one day," he used to say. I used to tell him he was impossible. On the 5th night, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water I did not drink and the white envelope from Edward Carr. I turned it over twice. Then I set it back down. I was not ready. I told myself I would open it when I felt stronger. I had no idea I would need it within the month. His mother called on a Thursday, and her voice was sweeter than it had been since the funeral. Gloria does not do sweet without something behind it. She said there was a small gathering for Nicole's new baby. She said James would have wanted me there. She said the family needed to see me. I did not want to go. I went anyway, because I still believed, at that point, that it was just a gathering. I bought the baby a soft white blanket and a small gift card. I had no idea I was walking straight into a trap. The house smelled like candles and something baking. The living room was full. Cousins, neighbors, a few of Nicole's friends from work. Everyone greeted me with that careful, tilted head sympathy that people give you when they do not know what to say. Nicole's baby, a girl named Avery, was passed from person to person in a yellow onesie. Nicole watched her with an expression that felt performed, touching her cheek, saying once, softly, that Avery already had James's eyes. I caught it. I set it aside, the way you set aside something that does not quite fit. Nicole's boyfriend at the time, a man named Derek, stayed close to her. He kept refilling her glass. There was a tightness running underneath the cheerful surface of the room, a current I could not name. Gloria kept glancing at the door. Nicole kept glancing at Gloria. I helped pass the food. I held Avery for a few minutes and let myself feel the simple weight of her, and I pushed down everything that came with it, because this was not the place. Then Gloria stepped to the center of the room and said, "Nicole has something she would like to say to everyone." Nicole stood up, smoothed her dress, and looked at me like she had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. She let the room get quiet before she spoke. "Most of you know this year has been one of the hardest of my life," she began. Several people nodded, raising Avery on my own, and now losing James. She let her voice soften on his name. James and I were close in a way that most people did not see. Avery is his daughter. He knew, and he wanted her taken care of. The room went absolutely still. Nicole looked directly at me. She reached into the bag at her feet and pulled out a document, held it up so the notary stamp at the bottom was visible to the whole room. "This is James's will. He made provision for his daughter. So, as Avery's share of his estate, I will be taking half the house on Maple Court, half of $850,000. It is what he wanted." She set the paper on the table, like she was laying down a winning card. Gloria had her hand at her throat. The cousins were staring at the floor. Derek stood behind Nicole, with his arms folded, and an expression on his face he clearly thought looked dignified. Every eye in the room turned toward me. I understood in that moment, fully and completely, why Gloria's voice had been so warm on the phone. This was not a gathering. It was an ambush, and I had brought a baby blanket. Here is what nobody in that room expected. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, though part of me, the part that has spent 13 years watching people try to bluff their way through difficult situations, found it genuinely, darkly absurd. I almost smiled because I knew something Nicole did not, and the gap between what she believed she was doing and what was actually true was in that moment almost more than I could quietly hold. I did not smile. I kept my face still and unreadable. "I see," I said. The room had prepared itself for tears or shouting. Instead, I picked up my cup, carried it to the kitchen, and rinsed it. I thanked Gloria for having me. I kissed Avery gently on the top of her head and said she was beautiful. Then I picked up my bag, said goodbye to the room, and walked out the front door. Behind me, I could hear the murmur of people who had not gotten what they came to see. I sat in my car in Gloria's driveway, with my hands on the wheel, steady. They are always steady. And then I reached into my coat pocket and found Edward Carr's envelope, which I had been carrying for 6 weeks without opening. I tore it open right there in the driveway. Inside was a folded index card in James's handwriting. Clean, careful letters. 2 lines. "If anyone ever challenges what is yours, do not argue with them." Call Edward. He has everything you will need. That was all. No explanation. Just James. 6 weeks gone. Reaching across everything to stand next to me in a stranger's driveway. I read it 4 times. Then I drove home to Maple Court and sat at the kitchen table with that card in front of me. He knew. Before any of this began, James had known that someone might come, and he had built something to protect me that I could not even see yet. The messages started before I had finished making tea. Gloria first, then Nicole, then a cousin I had not spoken to in a year. I turned the phone face down. People mistake silence for confusion. It is almost never that. Monday morning, I called Edward Carr. His office was in a brick building on the edge of downtown 3rd floor, with good light and old furniture. He was a calm man, gray-haired, the kind of person who delivers hard news gently and without drama. "I was expecting you," he said, when I sat down. "James told me you might wait a while. He said you would come when you were ready, or when you had to." I placed the index card on the desk between us. "Someone is claiming half my house. James's cousin. She says her baby is his, and she has a will to prove it." Edward nodded, reached into the lower drawer of his desk, and set a thick sealed envelope on the surface between us. My name was written across the front in James's handwriting. "James prepared this about a year ago," Edward said. "And he did not want you to know it existed, because he hoped you would never need it. But he was thorough." He rested one hand on it. "There is also a second sealed envelope inside. He asked me to tell you. Do not open that one until you truly need it. Not before." "Need it for what?" I asked. Edward almost smiled. "He said you would know." Edward opened the outer envelope and laid each item on the desk, one at a time. First, the real will. James's actual last will and testament, properly drafted, witnessed, signed, and filed with the probate court the week after he passed. It named me as his sole heir. Everything to me and me alone. "This is the only will of James Holloway on record with the court," Edward said. "There is no other document. Second, the deed to Maple Court, both our names, paid in full. Third, a notarized statement James had signed, affirming we had no children, and that no other person held any claim on his estate. And then, at the bottom of the envelope, a small cream-colored envelope with my name on it in James's handwriting. For Sarah, when it is time." I reached for it. Edward said gently, "Not yet." He was specific. I pulled my hand back. It was hard to do. But James had not been wrong about anything in 15 years of marriage, and I was not going to stop trusting him now. I took the cream envelope home and stood it against the pepper grinder on the kitchen counter, where I would see it every time I walked past. I did not open it. What I did instead was read every page of Nicole's document, twice, the way I read anything I am about to act on. And the more I read, the steadier I felt, because it was wrong in specific, documentable ways. It referenced a savings account James and I had closed 5 years earlier. I remembered the afternoon we closed it, because we had argued over which bank to move to next. James would never have written a current will, naming a debt account. It listed our address with a suite number. We have lived in a private house, with no suite number for 9 years. And the signature. I have signed my name next to James's signature on enough documents to know it by feel. This one had the shape right and nothing else. The letters were too even, too slow, like someone copying rather than signing. I photographed every page. I noted the closed account by name. I noted the wrong address. I noted the witness line at the bottom. Signed by someone named R. Cole, with Derek's full name, Robert Derek Cole, printed beneath it. I wrote one line in my notebook. Call Edward. 8 a.m. Nicole came to my door 2 days later, alone this time, with a folder under her arm and a carefully arranged expression. I don't want this to become a legal fight, she said. We're family. Just sign the house into both our names, sell, split it, and it's done. Clean for everyone. I took the folder because I wanted to see what was inside, more than I wanted to win the porch. I'll think about it, I said. Her whole body relaxed. They all confused relief for victory. Then Derek texted me 3 days after that. He was trying to play the reasonable one. Hey Sarah, just wanted to say I already sorted the witness part on the will, so the paperwork is tight. You don't need to stress about any of that. I read it standing in my kitchen and did not move for a full minute. I already sorted the witness part on the will, in writing, from the man whose name was printed on the witness line of a document James had never signed. I screenshotted it twice, emailed it to myself and to Edward with the full timestamp. Edward called back in less than 10 minutes. Save everything, he said. Say nothing that tips them off. Bring it all when the time is right. Gloria called that Friday. A family dinner, Sunday evening. Everyone there. One last chance to settle things reasonably. Sunday morning, 2 hours before I needed to leave. I sat at the kitchen table and opened the cream envelope. My hands, which almost never shake, shook. Inside was a sheet of medical letterhead, folded around a short note in James's handwriting. Sarah. If you are reading this, someone is claiming I fathered a child I could not have fathered. I never told you what I'm about to tell you, because I did not want it to be a weight between us. But I kept the proof, because you always told me that documentation beats assumption every single time. I love you. Do not argue with them. Just show them this. J, under the note, letterhead from a urology clinic. A procedure date. Spring 3 years ago. A vasectomy. With James's name, his date of birth, and the attending physician's signature. Behind it, a follow-up lab report, 8 weeks later. Confirmed sterile. No viable sperm detected. I read it twice. Then I sat alone in my quiet kitchen and laughed out loud. One short, helpless sound. Because of course he had. Of course James, who filed every receipt and labeled every folder, had quietly kept a dated medical record that made an entire lie impossible. He had been protecting me for 3 years without saying a single word. I made 3 copies of everything at the pharmacy down the road. The real will, the deed, the notarized statement, the medical records. One set for the dinner, one in my car, one locked in the desk at home. I texted Edward a photo of the medical letterhead. He called back immediately. Sarah, he said, and his voice carried something I had not heard in it before. This is over, a confirmed procedure, 3 years before the child was conceived. There is nothing left to argue. He paused. He really did take care of everything, didn't he? I looked at James's note on the counter. He always did, I said. Gloria's house was full that Sunday evening. Same faces as the shower. Cousins, neighbors. Derek standing by the window. Nicole at the head of the dining room table, with her hair done and her shoulders back. Ready? I'm glad you decided to be sensible, she said the moment I walked in. I just want what James wanted. For Avery, we can handle this tonight, or we can handle it in court. Your choice. The relatives shifted. Gloria would not look at me. Everyone leaned slightly toward Nicole, toward the easiest story. Then the front door opened behind me, and Edward Carr stepped in, carrying his briefcase, and the whole room went quiet in a different way. "Who is that?" Nicole said. "This is Edward Carr," I said, setting my folder on the table. "James's attorney. I thought he should be here since we're discussing James's estate." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Let's look at the actual paperwork." I did not raise my voice once. I laid the real will on the table first, explained the filing date, explained that it was the only document of its kind in the court record. No other will of James Holloway existed in probate. None. Then I laid Nicole's version beside it and walked through it error by error, quietly and without hurry. The closed account, the suite number on a house that has no suite, the witness line signed under the name R. Cole, Derek's legal name, on a document James had never seen. Edward said calmly to the room, "Filing that document with a court is submitting a forged will. Signing as a false witness is forgery. Both are felonies, and both have names attached to them in ink." Derek set down his glass. The cousins stepped back, and then Nicole said the thing she should not have said. "The will doesn't matter. Avery is still his. She is James's daughter." I reached into my folder and placed the medical letterhead on the table, then the lab result beside it. I turned them both so the room could read them clearly. "This is a record from James's physician," I said. "A procedure performed 3 years ago, confirmed by lab work 8 weeks later. Avery was born 14 months after that confirmation. James could not have been her father. He kept this documentation in a sealed envelope with a note to me because he understood that one day someone might say exactly what you just said." The room went completely silent. Nicole grabbed the papers and threw them down. Her voice cracked and rose. She shoved her chair back and it fell behind her. She said I had always made everyone think I was better than her. She said it was not fair. She said a lot of things, and the louder she got, the quieter and stiller I became, until the contrast between us was the only thing left in the room. I set Derek's text message on the table last. Face up. He told me himself he signed it, I said, in a text message, with a timestamp. Then I looked around the table at all of them. "I see," I said. "And now everyone does too." The room shifted the way rooms shift when the story they were holding collapses. Cousins looked at the letterhead and did the arithmetic. Gloria sank into her chair. Derek was already moving toward the door. Edward told him evenly that he might want to think carefully about whether that will ever got filed, and that he might want his own attorney. Derek left without answering. The door closed behind him. Gloria found her voice first. It was thin and unsteady. "Sarah, please, do not do this to Nicole. She was not thinking clearly. She is desperate. Think of the baby." I waited until the room was quiet. "I am not going to the police," I said. "Not if this ends here. Tonight. Completely. The will does not get filed. The story stops. No more messages. No more posts. No more claims on my house. Nicole signs a statement that there was never any claim. And she writes me one sentence in writing that I can keep." I turned to Nicole, who had stopped shouting and started crying the real way. "Avery did not do any of this," I said. "She is a newborn, so I am going to open a savings account in her name, in my name, controlled by me, and I am going to add to it every month until she is old enough to use it. Not because anyone forced me, because she deserves a clean start that has nothing to do with tonight." Nicole looked up at me. She did not say anything. Nobody did. I picked up my folder and stood. Edward has my number, I said. Use a proper attorney next time. It is simpler for everyone. The estate settled 8 weeks later. Clean and complete. The house on Maple Court is mine, exactly as James arranged it without ever telling me. Nicole never filed the forged will. She signed the statement. She sent me the sentence I asked for, handwritten on plain paper, and I keep it in the same drawer as James's index card. Not because I read it, because it is proof that something happened, which everyone would rather forget. Derek has not been seen at family events since. Nobody mentions him. I open the savings account for Avery the following month. A small amount goes in on the 1st of every month. Quietly, without announcements. One day, when she is old enough to understand any part of this, she will have something clean waiting for her that has nothing to do with the worst decision her mother ever made. Gloria and I speak occasionally. The warmth is gone from her voice, and somehow it makes our conversations more honest. She has never apologized. I have stopped waiting, because waiting for an apology is just another way of letting someone hold something over you indefinitely. The house is still too quiet, still full of him. His jacket's still on the hook, his coffee mug where he left it. In the desk drawer, under the statement and the index card, is the folder James built a year before he died. The one he never mentioned, because he hoped I would never need it. Some evenings, I take out his note and read the last line. Documentation beats assumption every single time. I love you. Jay, he was right. He was right about all of it. Here is what I learned, and I will keep it to one line. Grief does not make you a target. Not if the person who loved you spent their quiet hours making absolutely sure of it.